guys, so I wanted to come on while I'm driving. No, I'm not holding my phone. I have it in my little clip thing. But I wanted to share my diabetes diagnosis story with you guys because I've heard your alls and they're very, very inspiring. They've been very encouraging to me, especially being a newly diagnosed diabetic. So I'm going to kind of start out, like I'm going to take you through a timeline. About, I would say January of 2017, this year, I had it's called like a pilodonial cyst pop up. And if you know what that is, I don't want to go into detail because it's kind of nasty. But those are very painful. Went to the doctor, they lanced it, packed it full of antibiotics, took oral antibiotics. Anyway, it came back up, I would say about 3 months later in March, at the end of March. Same thing, except this time it lanced itself, so I didn't have to worry about doing that. Or I mean like going and having it done. Anyway, so probably 2 years ago, I had a doctor try to say that I failed a glucose test. Well, no follow-up was done. Nothing was really said. She gave me a meter and, said that, I needed to check it, but didn't tell me how often, which that's partly my fault because I probably should have taken more of an initiative about it. But anyway, so let's fast forward to, back to March this year. I'm bipolar as well as now type 1. And so I lost my job about a year and a half ago. No, 2 years ago in August. And anyway, didn't tell my family, and so I thought I could go off my meds, and so that kind of was a thing too. But anyway, so over time I started losing like tons of weight. Like example, for like at my brother's wedding in June of 2016, I weighed 264 pounds. So anyway, like started losing weight. I've got several friends that are nurses. I didn't really tell them all the whole story either. But, they were like, it's because you're off your meds, but you need to get back on those. Well, I'm a very strong-willed person. Obviously, that didn't happen. So, anyway, we kind of dismissed it. So, like from March on, really, I had a lot of digestive issues. No strength, laid in bed all day, didn't do a whole lot, I went out maybe once every 2 weeks, but, I was essentially, woke up, in July, not just woke up, but, woke up one day in July and just having trouble breathing, and I kind of dismissed it. Well, the day went on, and by that night, at 2 o'clock in the morning that next day, I literally was gasping for air, and I couldn't, I was drinking probably from, January on of this year. I was drinking maybe 6 or 8 Gatorades a day. And it could be the 20 ounces, it could have been the 32 ounces. I mean, just whatever I could drink, I was, drinking. Wasn't drinking any water, very little water. Anyway, so, I go in and get my dad, and, because I still live at home, and so he was like, I was like, I need an inhaler, I'm having an asthma attack or something. Never had a problem with asthma, but my mom does, and so I assumed it was just some asthma. And so, anyway, the next day, or same night, he was like, no, I think we need to go to the ER, you're just not right. And so we went, And I remember being admitted, you know, like I remember hearing the words ICU, laid there in the hospital for probably 3 hours with nothing to eat or drink because they wanted to see, you know, how my glucose would come down before they started insulin. Well, when they checked it when I was first admitted to the ER, it was like 555, and then it like was climbing from my remembrance. I don't remember a whole lot. But anyway, it wasn't 10 minutes after they drew my blood, everybody comes running in and they're like, oh my God, he's in DKA. You know, it's his sugar, it's 555, and it's on the climb. So they prepare an ICU room for me, move me up to ICU. And like, that's kind of like, that was the diagnosis piece, but there's like a lot more to it. Like, in the hospital, they were giving me bolus and basal insulin. And when they sent me home, like, I was in the hospital for 4.5 days, I think. And so they were giving me bolus and basal, both types, when I was in the hospital. Because I remember having to take a shot before I ate every meal. And, but like, you know, some more details about, you know, before I got discharged the first time. Like, when they took me in the ICU, my body temperature was dropping. My organs were starting to shut down. You know, I mean, I had to sign medical power of attorneys over to my parents, or not like power of attorneys, but like I remember signing something like before they would move me that like they could make any decisions about my health care. But, anyway, so, you know, I do that. You know, they put this like heated blanket on me that had a thermometer in a very uncomfortable place. And it, you know, I mean, I remember, you know, losing consciousness and coming and like gaining back consciousness. So anyway, discharge day comes, they send me home with Lantus. And, you know, of course I had a whatever post discharge, you know, follow-up appointment with a new doctor. And so he said that I need to be on more Lantus. And see, like, you ought to know, I didn't know that I was being given 2 types of insulin in the hospital. That's another long story, but I found out through friends at the hospital that they were giving me bolus and basal insulin in the hospital. Anyway, so like all I was taking for about a week was the Lantus, and you know, like, that was my discharge home meds. That was it, was the Lantus. And so anyway, they like, when I went to my post-discharge appointment, he was like very concerned I was taking cardiac too. So you know, he gave my parent, or like my mom, like this whole sheet of information, like if my sugar goes above this, if my dystolic gets above this, you know, all this to take me straight to the ER. Well, that next day after that appointment, my blood pressure kept bottoming out. So we go back to the same hospital. There are 2 major hospitals in my area. Well, I say in my area, but there are many major hospitals in my area, but there's only owned by 2 companies. But this particular hospital was owned by the same company. So anyway, like I go back to that same hospital that discharged me. I don't want to name any names just for privacy reasons, not for me, but for them. But anyway, so they come back in like after they do like my, you know, like my stats and all that stuff, and they're like, well, you know, we need to move into the other hospital. They have endocrinology there, all this, that, and the other. Okay, well, you know, at that point, I'm thinking, why didn't they take me there when I was first admitted? But anyway, like, this hospital I was at is a brand new hospital, supposed to be state of the art, all this, yada, yada, yada. No, not really. But anyway, but like during this time, like the second time I was admitted, I went through about a 6-hour period where I couldn't speak. Like, I literally couldn't speak. They did CT scans, they did MRIs without contrast. Nothing showed up. I started speaking about maybe 30 or 40 minutes, maybe an hour, before they moved me to the other hospital. But anyway, so, they got me, situated in the new hospital. Everything just started taking place, very well. I had educators coming in, I had dietitians coming in, which they did at the other hospital, but they weren't as in detail and stuff. But anyway, so, had a little bit of a psychotic break in the second hospital. That's when they started me back on my medicines for the bipolar disorder. Got that straightened out. They sent me home and everything. So, I guess I have some concerns that maybe the type 2 diagnosis several years ago was a misdiagnosis, because there was nothing else said about it. And from Shauna's video, about the stupid ass doctors, I kind of wonder, I would like to check in to see if, like that screening or whatever was done on me at that point, because every time that I have, gone to a new doctor or seen a new doctor, my paternal grandfather passed away of complications of type 1. So that's always been on my, on my medical history. It's always been there. So anyway, yeah, discharge day comes from the second hospital. They saw the effects on the Novolog and went, started working. It was great. Anyway, so, they sent me home, and that really began a whole new lifestyle for me. And at first I was so, I wasn't in denial, I don't guess. I probably was, just didn't know it. But, it was just, it was different. It was a new lifestyle for me. Because, my first thoughts were, oh my God, am I ever going to get to go eat at Cheddar's again? Am I ever going to go, because I love, I'm a socialite. I love to get out and socialize with people, dinners, parties, whatever. My thought was, my life is over as I know it. But, I've learned that it's about how much you're willing, to put into it. And this is just my opinion. People may disagree, but I think that people make it, can make it out harder than what it is. It's smart eating choices. It's taking care of yourself, and, look, I have this little guy, and, he is my world. And, so at the end of the day, I want to be around for my Chester. I want to be able to be here for him. And,